Oh, good morning and welcome. Thanks for coming and listening to Exore. So Exore is an ASX listed company, very new story. We've acquired and put together a very exciting portfolio of projects in northern Cote d'Ivoire just last year. And we've been exploring those projects for the last 6 months very aggressively because we're a well-funded company with about $12 million in the bank today. And in the last 6 months, we've completed about 50,000 metres of drilling. And the reason for such an aggressive program is we've made one discovery, an area we call Antoinette. And there's some results there which I won't run through, but you can read and speak for themselves. So it's a very exciting gold discovery, which is turning into a large gold system at Antoinette. And we're on to a second discovery, whilst be at a little bit earlier stage, at Veronique. And so we have 2 rigs drilling and turning, and we'll have those 2 rigs turning for the foreseeable future. And they'll be drilling about 10,000 metres per month. So as I said, we're in northern Cote d'Ivoire. We're on the convergence of 2 proven greenstone belts, the Banfora Tongan belt, which comes in from southern Burkina Faso into northern Cote d'Ivoire, and the Marilla Siama belt, which comes in from Mali into northern Cote d'Ivoire, and you see our tenure there in red, where those 2 belts come together. So a very good place to be for large gold systems, which our drilling results are demonstrating. Quite strategically positioned as well. We have 2 operating gold mines, the Sisingui operation run by Perseus Mining, about 35 kilometres away from where we're drilling at Antoinette, and then the Tongan operation, which is about 40 to 50 kilometres away from our properties. So there's our neighbouring companies. So our tenure in red there, so we have 1,300 square kilometres, and I think you'll see that ground position expand over the next 3 to 6 months. We're very keen to be the dominant land position on these 2 belts, along with Barrick, which is there in blue. And they've got their obviously Tongan operation out to the east, and then just to the west of us, their exploration project they call the Bundiali project, which they rated within Randgold as one of their highest and most exciting profile exploration projects in West Africa for them, and they're actively drilling up to our border, and we're drilling on the other side of the border within our permits. So in our northern area, we call the Exore project. This is where we're got 2 rigs drilling at the moment, one at Antoinette, which is now doing resource definition drilling and resource step-out drilling on that discovery, and we'll continue to drill there because that resource will just continue to get bigger and bigger after we put a maiden resource out in the next few months. And then a second rig drilling at Veronique, which is an Exore rig, drilling a very exciting, large-scale soil anomaly that's looking to turn into a very large discovery. And then to the south, we have another project, Liberty project, where we did some early drilling, which returned some very positive results, as I'll show you. So everything we're drilling is open pittable resources, so we're just looking to define resources in the top 150 metres, and everything is comes to surface, so we're sitting at surface. So here in our Exore project, this tenement you see here is about 400 square kilometres of granted ground, and then we have the strike extensions to the north under application, so about 600 square kilometres in total. And just initial wide space soil sampling to define these 2 large anomalies, Antoinette and Veronique, and they're very large. So Antoinette is about 7 kilometres from south to north and about 4 kilometres in width, and very high grade gold in soils. And Veronique is about 8 kilometres from south to north and even higher grade gold in soils. All of the soils are residual soils, not transported, and that's been proven by the aircore drilling that we've done over the last 6 months. So if we just zoom in on Antoinette here, so you can see here a granodiorite intrusion, and there's anomalous gold in the soils sitting over above that, particularly around the contacts, around the western contact, which is about 7 kilometres of strike, and around the eastern contact. The only drilling we've done really is in this blue inset box here, where we've defined now 850 metres of continuous high-grade gold mineralisation from surface down to about 150 vertical metres, and we'll be looking to put a maiden resource on that in the next few months, just from that one little area there, which represents about 10 to 15% of the total Antoinette area. Recently, we stepped out 900 metres along strike just to test some artisanal workings down an area we call Antoinette South. Only 10 holes we drilled, wide space, about 100 metres along strike from each other, and each hole came back with a 10 to 15 metre intersection at around 2 grams, pretty much from surface. And that 900 metres in between has not been drill tested, but has very anomalous gold in soils. So there's a potential for the 850 metres of strike that we've already defined to double or triple over time with further drilling, and we're drilling that at the moment. Just zooming in quickly on the 850 metres of strike that we've tested at Antoinette. Sorry, you can't read all those numbers, but you can see some of the select intercepts down the left-hand side there. A couple of things to note is the grade continuity along strike from section to section is exceptionally good. So we've drilled this now on 40 metre spacing along strike and about 20 to 25 metre spacing down dip. And the grades are very consistent along strike, but also down dip. And those intersections you see on the left there, such as 25 metres at 7 grams, 15 metres at 10, they're not carried by 1 or 2 metres of high grade. They're very consistent on the individual 1 metre assays. And you see most of those intersections are actually in the fresh rock, but we get both high grade in the oxide and in the fresh here. It remains completely open, so to the north, whilst it is pinching out a little bit, we're still getting 2 grams per tonne in the northernmost line of drilling. And to the south there, the southernmost hole, we're still getting 4 metres at 10.5 grams and 6 metres at 5 grams, and very much open to the south, as I touched on a moment ago. So just looking at the wider potential to grow that 850 metres of strike, here you see the soil geochemistry, and obviously the purple areas are the areas of very anomalous gold in soils. So you can see over the 850 metres of strike, the gold in soil anomaly that we've proven up there. But there's another 900 metres of similar gold in soils along strike to the south, which hasn't been drilled. As I said before, we recently stepped out down to Antoinette South and drilled this and got some very good results on a different orientation though. So here the strike orientation was more on a northwest orientation rather than the northeast orientation of Antoinette Central. But potentially where these two structures come together to the southern extensions of Antoinette Central is potentially where we can have bonanza grades and widths, but it just hasn't been drill tested yet, and we'll be drilling that over the next 6 months. So really our plan is to put a maiden resource out for the small amount that we've drilled so far, which is about 13,000 metres of RC drilling we've completed here over the last 4 months. But then that will be very much the tip of the iceberg, and we'll just continue to drill here and continue to expand that resource. And then looking within the broader Antoinette area, as I said at the start, it's emerging to be a very large gold system here. So not just that Antoinette Central and Antoinette South area. There's anomalous geochemistry around the contacts of this intrusion for about 7 kilometres to the south with artisanal workings. And 7 kilometres to the south here we have Antoinette Southwest, where there's just some shallow air core drilling done, which returned 4 metres at 14 grams per tonne, 4 metres at 4.7 grams per tonne in the top 30 metres. No further follow-up drilling's been undertaken there yet. And then Randgold Barrick now are basically drilling on the other side of the tenement boundary there along strike from that Antoinette Southwest at the moment. And then on the eastern contact there, artisanal workings once again and anomalous geochemistry. We'd stepped out just to do a couple of scout holes to the east there at Antoinette East just recently, just the last few weeks. Just 2 holes, just testing some new artisanal workings out there, and that returned just 5 metres at 18 grams per tonne. So there's plenty of gold to be found within this Antoinette area. And then about 10 kilometres to the south of Antoinette, within the same permit and the same project, the Begoe project, we have this very exciting Veronique target area. So what you see here is the soil sampling on the left here. So for 8 kilometres from south to north, we have essentially 200 to 500 ppb gold across every soil line that we've sampled, which are quite close spaced soil lines, about 100 to 200 metre spaced lines. So very high grade soils. The question was whether these soils are transported and been dispersed. So we undertook initially five wide spaced air core lines, so spaced 400 metres apart, and each line returned exceptional air core results. These are not targeted holes, they're just fence line of air core drilling in the top 30 metres. You can see some of the results there, 12 metres at 3.6 grams, 4 metres at 7.5 grams per tonne for air core, exceptional results. So we have the air core positioned here, continuing to drill, and you'll see some more results come out of Veronique in the next couple of weeks. Veronique seems to be, looking at the magnetics, seems to be controlled by the same structures, which run about 40 kilometres up to the east, that have a controlling influence over the 4 million ounce Tongan mine of Randgold, now Barracks. So it's a very exciting target for us and provides substantial upside for our shareholders. So that's our focus is on the Antoinette and Veronique area, which we've got 2 rigs drilling, and they'll continue to drill for the foreseeable future. We also have to the south the Liberty project. We call it a separate project, but it's only 30 kilometres to the south. So any resources we define here will be part of the same operation. Here, wide space soil sampling defined a 20 kilometre long gold-in soil structure. We just drilled the central part of that at Liberty 2 with some air core drilling. And we defined a very continuous 2 grams per tonne in air core, so at surface for 1.6 kilometres of strike, 10 to 20 metres of width. So we just did some first pass RC drilling on that recently, and that returned similar results to the air core, so 10 to 20 metres at 2 to 3 grams per tonne. So we're capped at about $30 to $35 million. The share price has obviously gone up and tracked the drilling results over the last 6 months, and then been a big increase in our institutional shareholder base as a result, which has all been through on-market buying. And as I said, well-funded with $12 million in the bank, so we'll continue to drill about 10,000 metres per month going forward. So there's our program. So 2 rigs drilling, as I said, maiden resource in the 3rd quarter, and then we'll just continue to grow the resource from that point forward. So thanks very much. We're at booth E5 if you want to drop around and go through it in any more detail. Thank you.